didn't have a bathroom when we lived in Oxnard.
Yeah.
And we'd take a bath. It was
You look handsome, Pa. It's been a while since I've seen you all dressed up. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to do this was so that when you're no longer here, that we have something to always remember you by, and to have some of the questions that we would have never had answered now, and so that I could pass this on to our kids and to their kids and so on. Okay.
and to throw darts at.
Maybe. Okay, so my first question is, where were you born, what city, and do you know the name of the hospital?
I was born in Oxnard, California, in Line Inn Hospital, which was directly across the street from Oxnard High School. It's no longer there.
Oh, okay. What is one of your favorite memories from your childhood?
Well, I have a lot of them. Specifically, I don't recall a lot of things. One of the things that I do remember is that I was in the first grade. I went to 4 schools.
Oh wow.
It was Griffel Grammar School, Guadalupe Catholic School, which they kicked me out of, and Carpinteria and Pleasant Valley.
Why did you get kicked out of school?
Because I was too inquisitive.
Oh, okay. Were you a rebellious child?
I believe I was, yes.
Did you get into a lot of fights?
Yes, a lot of fights. I'll tell you one specific fight. We had a field that we had to walk across to go to school, and there was a path worn in the field, and this little black kid, I had already fought him in the boxing match, and all he did was run, so he wouldn't let me go on this path. I could have gone around him, but I didn't want to go around him, so we fought in the morning, I think for about an hour, and I finally got to school. I was full of dirt, just filthy. But he let me through.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you about your parents. What did you admire most about your mom and dad?
My dad was very intelligent man. He knew a lot of things. He had a lot of skills, and I think he kind of passed some of them to me, because I was able to do a lot of things that he taught me. But he never let us watch television, and he always said that I was in training for the future whenever he was working us to death.
And Grandma? What about her?
Grandma was, she was a tough old lady. She was very strict. She wanted things done her way, but she also was a loving person, but she was not a person who showed it. She was very reserved. And beside that, my mother was an excellent cook, and we always had food no matter what. When we lived in Oxnard, we had our own garden where she just used to pick up whatever we had, and we had chicken. So I think she wrote that book on 1,001 ways to cook chicken. So that's why I don't eat chicken at all. Occasionally I do.
Mm-hmm. Who did you like spending more time with, Grandma or Grandpa?
I actually didn't spend time with them. I was always kind of a loner. I used to spend my own time. Even my brother I didn't spend time with because we were so different in age.
What is one thing that they taught you that you carried throughout your life?
Work ethic. They always taught me that in order to achieve anything, you always had to work for it.
So you already said that you and Danny didn't spend a lot of time together, but when you guys did you guys get along, or?
Nope. We used to be continually fighting to the point where my mother said she was going to put us in the garage and let us fight it out.
What was one of your favorite memories between you and Danny, if you have one?
The only memory I have of my brother was when he was born, and I no longer was a baby in the household.
He took that over.
It was kind of devastating to me anyway, and I was only 5 years old.
Okay, we're gonna go to, let's see, how many schools did you go to throughout your life?
Well, I went to the 4 grammar schools I mentioned before, and I went to, when we moved to Los Angeles, I went to Griffin Avenue School and Lincoln. That was it.
Okay. Was school hard or easy for you?
Unfortunately, they were easy for me, and I did not devote myself. I mean, everything came easy to me, and I should have applied myself more, and I probably would have done much better in life.
If you had to go back and change anything in your life, would you?
I would have studied. I would have applied myself more. Probably joined the church a lot sooner if I had done what was correct. I belong to I'm an LDS, a Mormon. I am a high priest, and it brought about a change in my life. I was 52 years old when I joined the church.
What was one of your first jobs?
Oh boy. One of my first jobs was wrecking houses and rebuilding them. There's a house on 4th Street in East LA that I remember we put a new foundation on it, and it was all decomposed granite. And it was we had to use jackhammers, and I was 16 or 17. I think I weighed 115 pounds working a jackhammer. It wasn't an easy thing for me to do.
But you did it. How many jobs did you have before you joined the Army?
I did everything. I painted, I did construction work, and I even did I worked at a local show where I used to put the coming, what do they call that?
Coming soon, or?
No, it's where in the old theaters they used to have it was where you put what was showing up on the
on the marquees.
Marquee. There you go. That's it.
Okay. How old were you when you learned how to drive?
I was 18.
Is that when you joined the Army?
Yeah, soon after.
Okay, this is kind of personal. Who was your first crush and your first kiss?
My present wife.
Really?
Yep.
Oh. What made you ask Grandma out on a date?
Actually, she asked me on a date.
Oh. But you guys knew each other in high school, right?
Not very well. The only reason that she's the one that pursued me. I had nothing to do with it. And the only time was when we graduated. We had what they call an all-night party at the boys' club, and that's when I first met her. And in fact, we kissed all night.
Who said I love you first, you or Grandma?
I don't recall. Probably she did. Like she just indicated.
When did you know Grandma was the one?
I don't know, it just occurred. It wasn't a planned thing, it just happened.
Did you propose on one knee?
No, we just got married. It was very simple.
Okay.
This picture was taken at my aunt's house and front porch 77 years ago. I was 20 years old, 2021. This was taken in Fort Ord, California, when I first joined the service, and I was 18 years old. And I was in the reserves at the time. In fact, when I was in high school as a senior, I was in the reserves. And at the time, there was I didn't want to be drafted, so that's why I joined the reserves. And then later on, I went to my training for it was a 6 months training for the reserves, and I came back and I started at East LA College. I was studying mechanical engineering, and I couldn't find work to support myself, and I decided to go back in the Army. And I joined for 3 years. I went to school for a microwave radio repairman, which was a course of 30 weeks. It took me 32 weeks because I failed a couple of weeks, and you had to redo if you failed the 1 week, you always had to take it over. But my adventures in the Army were, it was fun, but it was also dangerous at the time. When I was in the reserves, we were slated to go to Lebanon because of the trouble that they were having in Lebanon at the time. And it was where all those 250 some Marines were killed in the barracks. And I was a young kid, 18 years old. I think I was about 19 by then, because I already passed my birthday. And not too many people know that when I was in the reserves, and this was in Louisiana, we had a young man that was under house arrest, and I was supposed to have been in charge of taking care of him, and he took off on me. And when he came back, I accosted him, and we got into a fight, and he ended up stabbing me 4 times. And not too many people know that I have a scar on my leg, my stomach, and on my back. But fortunately, it was a small knife, and it was maybe a 2-inch blade. But I didn't feel it until the next day. I was in terrible pain. And after I joined again in the regular Army, I went to the microwave school, and I ended up in France, where my son was born. So he's consequently a French and American citizen. But the French always say, once a Frenchman, always a Frenchman. So we used to call him grenouilles. Grenouilles is frog in France, in French, because of their deep voices. They used to call them frogs. My wife was with me, and we had a good time there in France. In fact, if I were to live in a foreign country, it'd probably be France.
How did you feel when Grandma told you she was pregnant for the first time?
Ladies, all of them said that the way she walked and her mannerisms and everything was a boy. And when she went to the hospital, she comes home with a little boy.
They made everything for her, wasn't it? All for a girl?
Yeah, they had a lot of things, all for all girls.
And then you guys came back from France, and where did you guys move to?
We lived in El Sereno, right there down the street from Sheffield, for a short while, and then we moved again to what's the name of that street? Shelley Street, just up next to Alhambra.
And is that where you guys had my mom?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you were a good father to them?
Sometimes I regret my drinking. I had a drinking problem at the time, but I've been sober for 25 years, so I think I'm over it now. But I regret that I did what I did is when I was intoxicated.
What is one of your biggest accomplishments in life?
One of the big is I paid for this house. It's all paid for. It's my house, besides the government's. Your biggest regret in life? That I didn't go to school. I didn't study to be what I actually wanted to be. I wanted to be a doctor. And with the financial situation that I was in, it was an impossibility.
What was one of your first cars?
My first car was a 1948 Ford, and it was turquoise. My dad painted it turquoise. I don't know why, because he just had to paint. But it was a bright little car. Your grandma used to always have to push it because somehow it didn't want to start all the time.
Mm-hmm. Who was your go-to person for advice growing up?
I actually didn't have anybody to go to. I was, like I said before, I was a loner. I always used to make my own decisions, and that's one of my problems with my marriage, was that I'm a closed person. I'm very secretive, and I don't like people involved in what I do or what decisions I had to make.
If there's one thing in life you always want me or your grandkids to carry on, what would that be? The ethic that my mother and father taught me was to achieve anything, you had to work for it. And I hope that somehow they attain that particular trait, because when you work, you get rewarded for your efforts. Okay, Rochelle wanted me to ask you, when has been your happiest moment in life? Where did you live at the time, and how old were you?
Well, I've had a lot of happy moments. The birth of my son, the birth of my daughter, and there's no time or age when that occurred. It was a spontaneous thing. And the only regret I have is that I didn't spend more time with them.
Jessica wanted to know, is there anything that you haven't done that you would still hope to accomplish?
No, not really. It's I just hope that my family, my immediate family, will one day reconcile to the fact that they're all related and that they all should try to get along, because life is very short. And they need to realize that even though they're angry, but they're all petty things. It's like if somebody gives you a rock because you had a fight, and years later you're still carrying this rock, and you don't recall what that rock was for. But the person that you offended or had a fight with, they don't even know what it was for. So that's how stupid and useless it is to carry a grudge or go through life being mad at somebody. And I don't know what has happened in my immediate family that they don't all get along. Once in a while, you know, it's been a long time since we've been together, all of us. And that's what I regret not doing, or not having an accomplishment of that.
Who's your favorite grandchild? If you have one.
I don't have any. I love it. I love them all. They have their quirks. They have their emotions. Some are more emotional than others. Some are distance, but it's part of life where most of us try to adjust to whatever situation we're in. And like I just mentioned, was that I hope that before I die that somehow they'll all be together.
And my last question is, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, a lot of people remember me as being a big grouch, but deep down I'm just a big old teddy bear. I don't regret things that I've done in my life, and I just hope that people remember me by forgiving whatever I did wrong.
Alrighty, I think that's all of it. I just want you to know that I really appreciate you doing this, and that I love you, and that I will do everything that I can when you're gone to make you proud and to carry on what you have taught me, and I will always carry you with me no matter what.
Don't carry me too far. I weigh a lot. I just hope that when people see this particular tape, that some memories are brought out. Like when I was born, I was in a large family. We had my aunt had 7 kids. They were all different ages. I was a baby at the time, and we lived like in a compound. We had there was 3 big houses, 4 rentals. There's 1 bedroom, 1 room places where they rented to all different people. And I used to eat, we talk about Elijah, how he eats, and I used to always eat at my mother's house, go to my grandma's house, and then late at night, my aunt used to always have fresh made tortillas and good food. But that was my daily habit of eating 3 dinners, and it was. I remember all those things that as a youngster, and my memory of we used to play out in the street because the street we lived on was a dead end, and there was 1 light. And I remember a lot of things that I did, and I wasn't a very good kid. There was this young boy who had a bicycle, and I asked him if I could ride it. I couldn't even ride it, but I still asked him, and he wouldn't let me use it. So the next time he came around, I had a stick, and he was riding, and I threw it through the spokes, and he went head over heels. But he never lent me his bike either, so that didn't help. And then I remember things like where we lived in Carpinteria. That was one of the things that I vowed never to do again. Was my dad took me to pick peas, and it had to be the wettest I've ever been, because all the peas were all wet, and that was miserable. But my dad, I think he taught me things to do that I wouldn't have to do in later life. But he taught me a lot of good things too. Thank you. Just a lot of details, minute little details. Like the day that when we lived in Pleasant Valley, we purposely missed the bus to go to school. And we had to walk to school, and it took us about 2 hours because it was not very close. This was a one building, I think it was 2 or 3 stories, one old wooden building. And it was fun. And then in Carpinteria, we live right next to a gas station, and the gas station still had the glass where, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they were, you pump the gas and you could see the gasoline come down by gravity at the time. A summer home in Nohi, and I still remember that house. It was a old wooden Victorian home with a porch all around the house. It was at the end of in Carpinteria. There's not in Nohi. There's a covered main street, and we lived at the end of right there next to the street. And I recently went up to Ojai. My son took me, and it brought back a lot of memories. And that's it.